All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Now we'll shift our conversation to another very important and burning issue that has been on for some time now. It's been a running story. NARTO is the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners, and they have expressed support for the Nigerian petroleum and natural gas workers on the ongoing rift with the Dangote group over the monopolistic practice, according to them, in the...
And maybe there are some relapse, but I believe it's now signed, and that is probably public and those who are interested, because I've had so many analysts speaking on issues they don't know. And there is need to have some clarity. In Nigerian oil sector, that is why we have upstream, midstream, and downstream. The upstream relates to exploration up to the level of bringing crude, which will come down to midstream, that is to refining. Then that will come down to downstream, which is the storage, distribution, that's transportation and retail. As far as the Nigerian oil sector is concerned, it's governed by the PIA Act, and that is it. As far as Dangote refinery is concerned, they are in the midstream. Distribution of petroleum products across the country is in the downstream. The truth of the matter is that PIA Act 212 states very clearly, you cannot move from midstream and start downstream operations without proper approval, proper license. That is to say, you can't use the same license for refining and distribute. And that distribution, even if you have license, it has to be at arm's length. So here we are today. The Dangote refinery refining, we are very happy. We pray that God continue to help Alhaji to have energy to do more of these refineries. Alhaji brought trucks, and we are very happy as we represent owners of the trucks. And we pray that he will have energy to do that more. However, the act is for him to do that himself is an act of illegality against Section 212 of the PI Act. Put very simple. So this is where we have a problem. And this will lead to, there is a reason why such is put in the PI Act. It's one thing to have a refinery in the midstream sector. In the downstream sector, there are a lot of companies, organizations who have structures, who have private companies, who have private investments, just like the private investment of the refinery. And Nigeria is, the government of Nigeria under the NMDPRA approved depots across the country for ease of distribution and for so many reasons. We have depots in Calabar. The private owners have staff, have dependents, have service providers financed by banks that serve the Calabar and its environs, including Northeast. We have depots in Port Harcourt owned by so many Nigerians with staff, dependents, financed by banks that serve Southeast and South-South and part of Northeast. We have depots in Koko, in Warri, also private depots, owners, private investment. They have staff, have dependents, and they serve North Central and Abuja. We also have lots of depots in Lagos that serve Southwest, Northwest, and others. With the current deployment of trucks by the Dangote Group, 4,000 trucks, the plan of free transportation will capture the whole gamut of the downstream. So all these structures that I informed you now will naturally be empty because they will not get supply because there's no coastal distribution. And if they don't get supply, every person must load from the Dangote refinery to all other destinations. So imagine the level of inconvenience loading all the way from Lagos to all parts of the country. Imagine the number of staff that will be laid off. Imagine all those depots that I've mentioned in various countries, in various sections of the country. They have their own trucks, they have their own staff, they have their own drivers. So all of them will not be able to operate. And in Nigeria today, there is no local government where there is no transporter. And by that part too, there is no driver. By similarly, that part to dependents, vulcanizers, mechanics, and whatever. So imagine the number of investors and employees that will lose jobs by virtue of this development against operation of a single individual company, although a giant company, no doubt about it. Giant investment, no doubt about it. But the truth of the matter is that such giant investment is operating in the midstream. This depots and transportation is in the downstream. And in the eyes of the law, at least as far as we are concerned, is not allowed to operate as such. So on this note, I will appeal to the government to ensure that the energy security of the country is protected, because handing over or allowing a capture of the distribution of petroleum products across the whole country to a single individual, loading from a single corridor, is a very dangerous trend. Also, government has responsibility to protect small and medium enterprises with ownership spread across all the country. Similarly, also, government has responsibility to protect its own investment. Government has its own NNPC retail, has its own depots, has its own retail stations, has its own staff. Also to protect foreign investment. There are so many of them by foreign ownership. There are also so many foreign investment in terms of foreign trucks that were sent to this country or loaned on credit by people to distribute petroleum products across the country. And also the fact that even if the 4,000 trucks are in place now, the current number of trucks in use is 30,000 trucks. And these owners of these 30,000 trucks spread across the country, and they cannot do free. So if this company, they are going to do free.
Hang on, with, just give me a moment. We also have some live pictures from in Anambra, Governor Soludo, who's also inaugurating a home foundation, rehabilitation center, and elderly people's home. And Business Nigeria continues on all other platforms here. You can continue your conversation now. Go ahead, Alhaji.
Okay, so what I said is that the ownership of these trucks is spread across the whole country. So there are a lot of dependents, a lot of finances, and whatever. But we are not averse to injection of trucks. We support owners of trucks. But we are also concerned about the smaller players, more so because these trucks are not adequate to serve the country. And these owners of these 30,000 trucks cannot do it free. And we believe there is no business venture in this country that can be done free. So there is need for all parties to come on board and ensure, one, act of illegality is not done, two, these trucks are factored in such a way that Alhaji will live successfully by the grace of God, other depot owners and marketers will live successfully, and the transporters will also live in a more harmonious relationship. That is the best deal for everybody, because this is an investment that everybody has done with a view to get returns, and without necessarily having any pain on the eventual consumer. Because if at the end of the day, everybody is cleared, there is one player, then the issue of monopoly comes in, the issue of anti-competition comes in, then probably the consumer will be the victim because it's the one winner takes all. So we are appealing to Alhaji himself to create a forum wherein all the players will bless or have a blessing of his own blessing by grace of God, so that everybody will live and let live.
Okay. Now that we have gotten to this point, because like I said when I asked the first question, we are aware that these trucks are out, and if courts have also said that they should not stop these trucks from operating. So if we continue and this back and forth keeps, if we'll stay on this page, what happens? Who's going to shift? What will NATO do? What will NUPENG also do?
Well, NATO is engaging the relevant government agencies. NATO is also looking to sit down with Alhaji himself. And NATO will also looking to sit down with all the stakeholders, interested parties, to see how we will be able to survive while Alhaji survives. It was noting that NATO members are transporters, so without fuel being refined and shipped to the depots, we will not have whatever it takes to distribute across the country. So it's a fact that we need the refineries, although of course there are importations to bridge the gap, but notwithstanding, the livelihood and safety of the business is our aim, and also safety is the business of our members, all of us. What we will do is what we've been doing. We've been engaging with relevant government agencies. Today, Friday, I believe there is a meeting that is currently going on and is being handled by the Department of State Security Service, all in an effort to ensure that sanity is put in place and everybody, a line is drawn so that everybody will exercise his franchise. We will look for opportunity also to see whether Alhaji will shift ground irrespective of the legal position, and see how best he will successfully operate his business without necessarily having any pain on any of the players. I'm talking about the depot owners, about the marketers, some of them, and also the transport owners, as well as the fact that the relationship is probably restored in normalcy with NUPENG. So we're calling on everybody, not only even government, all other people, Nigerians who feel they can add value to ensure that sanity is restored without strangulating everybody, is welcome. As we are aware, every investor, every business person would like peace, would like atmosphere of peace for him to exercise his franchise. At the same time, also, I will use the opportunity to call on my members. As president of NATO, I'm doing my very best, making unnecessary engagement, talking to anybody, and anybody that matters in the system, and that they should be calm. At the same time, one should not take law into his hands. We are trying our very best to ensure that sanity is restored.
Now, you people have agreements, before we wrap this up, you have agreements before now with companies where you, supply products and all of that. What happens to all of those agreements?
Thank you so much, my brother. It's a very good question. Our members have signed agreement with so many companies, some even informal agreements. But we have formal agreements signed, and by that virtue, we use those formal agreements to collect bank facilities to buy trucks and serve those companies. But now, that agreement is at stake because a big brother is coming to supply directly to them, and not minding the fact that they have signed agreement with us. Though they have not officially informed us and it's not officially confirmed, but information available to us that this is ongoing and as such, our trucks will not be going forward, be used. So that is one of the reasons why so many of our members are complaining. If I sign an agreement with you to do service with you, and by that virtue obtain trucks to meet you, and somebody somewhere, by grace of God, comes in, okay, he wants to serve you free. It's a very delicate situation. So that is one of the reasons why we are calling on the federal government, and we know they are listening, especially the NMDPRA, who have told all of us clearly that this act is an illegal act by virtue of Section 212 of the PIA Act. At the same time, also, they are trying to find a solution where there will be normalcy in the system and there is very good competition. They have just launched a committee yesterday or day before yesterday with the FCCFC, that is Federal Competition Commission, with a view to ensure that no one is strangulated and no one is put out of business. All these are put towards to ensure that there is sanity in the system. Of course, the PIA envisaged such kind of moves by players, and that is why all these clauses are put in the Act. At the same time, also, it's good for us and the government and the players in Nigeria to understand, even the common man to understand that laws are meant for today, tomorrow, and next tomorrow, for present players and prospective players coming in. So it is not expected that for the size of someone, some of the laws will be bent or will be circumvented just to accommodate the wishes and demands of a particular player in the industry. So that is why we call on everybody that matters in the system to look at the possibility of ensuring that everybody in the system is protected. At the same time, also, there is a need for all of us to understand that investing in a refinery is not a small venture, and of course, need to be protected, need to be patronized, so that we'll have more of such refineries. But at the same time, also, the pricing at the refinery should be palatable, should be competitive, and such that the off-takers will have the appetite to take the product and be able to sell the product without necessarily incurring any loss. Everybody that enter into any business venture, either privately financed, bank finance, is done in such a way that you will get certain returns at the end of the day. In a situation where you have been in business over the years and you go and purchase product, after certain days or weeks, the cost of the product is being reviewed downwards, and you have stock in your kitty, you've not sold, it's a very huge loss. So everybody in the system is expected to shield his sword, and I mean, I'm talking about the big players because we are just on errands, and ensure that sanity is restored in the system, because it's when there is sanity in the system that business will prosper. I must tell you, my first encounter with Alhaji in this respect was that what he told us was that he's in the business to add value, not to destroy. That is a very, very, very good statement. But what we are seeing now, deployment of trucks, free transportation, and transporting into the company that already have existing contracts is not the same with what we've seen. So what happened along the line? These are some of the questions that will, going forward, sit down with Alhaji to discuss, and we hope he will listen. And we also hope at the end of the day, the government, the players, consumers, Nigerians will all have a field day. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Yusuf Lawal Othman, let's leave it at that for today. Thank you so much. We'll stay on this story and see how events unfold as we move on. Mr. Othman is President Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.